Okay, welcome to another episode of Public Trust Review. Today we are going to start in with a spotlight on Spotlight. And to start with, we're going to go through a mailer that was sent out about one of the candidates, Larry McCollogh, one of the council candidates. And we're going to highlight a couple things. And Tom, I'm gonna highlight a couple things, and I want you to kind of walk us through some of the things that you notice on this flyer. Okay?
Right. So this flyer bases itself on a story in Spotlight. The headline is right there: home sale raises eyebrows in Santa Clara race. So we begin to wonder, okay, so we're believing that this is true, right? So city council candidate Larry McCollogh says he's been a resident of Santa Clara for years, but he likely cheated the system when he lied on a mortgage loan in Santa Rosa to obtain a lower interest rate. He pocketed $40,000 in the process. Now, this is pretty incendiary, and it really relies on how much we trust Spotlight. And that's what we want to look at here. There was no criminal action taken against Larry McCollogh, despite what this flyer seems to say. And go ahead.
No, well, then the next thing down here on this particular flyer, it says mortgage fraud is highlighted as an example. And then this Washington Post article comes up. And what's the relevance of this Washington Post article or
right.
Quote?
Yeah, the only relevance is that they have said that Larry McCollogh was involved with mortgage fraud, and then they're pointing out something from the Washington Post. This is one of the worst, I think, of these flyers that I've seen. And you'll understand why when we get into the story itself. But this is a
49er football. I'll read the quote of who it's sponsored by: the Bartolo Corporation affiliated entities, including 49ers Football Company, LLC, which means the 49er organization sponsored this particular flyer.
And it's part of the 3.5 million or so that the DeBartolo Corporation is paying to independent expenditure committees, right? Which basically means that they can spend as much money as they want, and it's not connected to the candidate. So we wanted to look at that story in San Jose Spotlight. We thought it was important to see what Spotlight's mission is, what they say. That they want to ignite civic engagement, educate citizens, and strengthen our democracy. And that they're going to be a voice for high quality, independent local news, right? Search for truth, shed light on wrongdoing, and hold the powerful accountable. It's all great. And that's what news outlets now can do and have been doing for years.
Yep.
So, but
I support that. I think everybody supports everything that's on there, 100%.
Yes. Yes. And they've won awards for the work that they've been doing, but not in this case. So home sale raises eyebrows in Santa Clara race. Whose eyebrows? Did it raise anything? It originated here, or we suspect it originated in some opposition research from some candidate or candidate's political consultant, who went back and dug through Larry McCulloch's background and came up with this, which is something that happens in races, but usually not in local races, usually in at the federal and state level, we get this kind of stuff.
Well, no, I just want to take us, let's take a deeper dive into the actual article itself.
Yes.
And we're going to kind of decompose the article or digest the article a little bit. And we're going to start with the title and the image.
Right. Well, so I've already said something about the title.
Right.
So it's obviously focusing this thing on the council and on the race. Okay, and if you're going to do that, it's fine to bring up things that are factual and true and to present them with the context that people need in order to understand them. This article presents a set of facts and then is doing an opinion piece on what the writer of this thing thinks this could possibly mean. So they give you some facts. He bought a home in Santa Rosa 2 decades ago. He got a mortgage. He was going to live in the house. Then we find out later that his job changed and he never lived in the house, and then he sold it. Those are the facts, right? But if you look at the way that this is presented, it is framed in a way where they're saying it's mortgage fraud. And this transaction is raising questions. Well, whenever they use a verb tense like that, is raising questions, as opposed to the residents of Santa Clara are asking, or the city council is asking. But that isn't the case in this story. We get the feeling that it is only the writer.
Right, or how that got seated with the writer or something like that, but
yeah,
we're not sure where the questions are coming from is your point.
Right, that's right. And I want to go back. Can you just go back for a second to that slide? If you look at the bottom, and they do this all through this story, right? There are quotes that often don't connect to the story itself. And we're beginning to question whether that quote from Dana Sack was the result of the question that was asked and whether that question had anything to do with this article. So people often are quoted out of context. It's one of the reasons why the mayor doesn't respond to most of these. Even in writing, they're taken out of context. And I wonder if that's the case here.
And for context and for some of the things you wanted to touch on, the journalistic code of ethics, and
yes.
we just clipped a couple sections. The code of ethics is like 2 pages long and lots of bullet points. But we'll start with the first, or one of the first, not one of the first, but an item that you wanted to highlight.
Yeah. So the code of ethics from the Society of Professional Journalists is pretty widely accepted across the country in the journalism profession. And it has a number of principles, right, that that people promise to follow. This is one of them. And we see this a lot in this race, where people are being attacked wholeheartedly and consistently and very frequently, and without any consideration of who are the people and are they being treated with any kind of respect or any kind of dignity. How can somebody who is your neighbor after this barrage go out into the community and not have people coming up and asking, well, what about all those things that I read? Well, in this case, this is violating a fundamental principle, which is even if you have all of the facts you could possibly have, you have to balance it against potential harm or discomfort. And the potential harm here is they're actually causing harm, real harm. They're saying there's a potential legal trouble in what Larry McCollogh and his wife did. And they're giving some facts. But notice, this happened 2 decades ago, right? March 2004. The loan company doesn't exist any longer, the mortgage company. So who cares about this? What's the story? He bought a house, his job changed, he sold the house.
Right, and I guess to the point is, I mean, if he deliberately did something, that's one thing. But there is no clarity on any of that. There's no facts to back that statement up, that presumption or that statement. And right now, I don't even know how you could verify that, given the fact that the loan company is out of business. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing. There's where's this coming from, and how is this a story worthy of during an election cycle that this paper is focusing on? And that's the integrity of that.
Yeah, I mean, yep. This is
we'll go to and we're going to go to more examples. Go ahead, finish off this one and go to the next example.
Go to the next example.
Okay. So this next piece, we have 2 items that we pulled from the Code of Ethics.
Right, and this is about context. and not to distort the facts with context that doesn't apply. And that's what we see here. So they're saying that mortgage fraud is pervasive nationwide. Okay, that's true. It may have caused the 2008 recession. Okay, what does that have to do with this story? All right, it only has something to do with the story if you buy that this was mortgage fraud, which is the opinion of the writer and potentially of the editors of Spotlight. This has no relevance to the facts. It only has relevance to the opinion. And this next thing that's here about Congressman Terrence John Cox of Fresno, that has no bearing except to put, or to try to, in the mind of the public, to connect somebody who was indicted with somebody for whom there was no case. And notice it says in a related case. There is no case, and this one is not related.
Yeah, and the related case I think is particularly I mean it's blue, which means you can click on it to get details of the case of Congressman Terrence John Cox of Fresno, but that's not related to this story. That's related to mortgage fraud. It's not related to Robert McCollogh. It's related to something that has a potential for a loose who knows what it does, but there's no connecting the dots here. There's a dot here and a dot over here. That's like saying, well, it's really bad, you know, crime in this country is really bad and beating up on somebody is bad. Yeah, that's bad.
It's all innuendo and rumor.
And we expect that from the independent expenditures, like hit pieces and things like that. What we don't expect that from is a journalist or a journalist or a paper of some kind of authority that we're hearing. I mean, we depend on journalism for information. All right, last slide coming up.
So we have here some questions to ask about a news story when you're reading it, and whether it's fake, biased, factual, and then you have to make a decision. And so what we did was we just went through and we marked a few of these that we think this story is illustrating, or questions we have. Nobody else reported this story except for some derivatives that were published in Patch and some other site that we haven't heard of. There really are no quotes from real sources that have to do with this story. The quotes have to do with some other story. And then one of the other things is this picture. If you look at this picture, it has no relevance to the story. You know, if there were a picture of a house maybe, or a picture of something else, but it's just pointing out that this is about a council member and they're making up what this is really about and what it means. And that's what, if you look at this bias, right? It's unbalanced, although they did ask Larry a question, which he responded to in writing to explain this. It's trying to make you believe something, that he was involved in mortgage fraud, which is not true. The headline is misleading. We already talked about that. And it's, again, negative about anyone who is an ally of the mayor's. And that's unfair. Is it factual? Well, it's factual, but the context is all wrong. And the implication is wrong. And the story is wrong.
And I think is it factual? The report includes reporters' own opinion. And while this move may not be illegal or hard to prove as a case of mortgage fraud, it could raise questions about McCulloch's character and ethics. Like, that is literally an opinion. That is an opinion. If someone wants to draw their own conclusions based on the facts of he did this, and he did this, leave it at that. If I want to draw that a conclusion, that's my choice. But for you to seed that in an article without clear, draw the lines facts, that's irresponsible. As a, to me, it's not fair. It's not fair. I mean, irresponsible is too strong a term, but for me,
no, it is irresponsible. It violates pretty much all of the ethical principles that apply to journalism, right? And what you're saying is true. It could raise questions. Well,
And the rumor is speculation. So it's a rumor or it's speculation at best. It's speculative, which is saying, is it, that's not a speculation, is it fact? And then the quotes that are not supported by the evidence. Again, that related case, that case is real. That's, no one's disputing that. But it is a distraction for what does that have to do with Larry? And like nothing. That just is a fact.
So what this story ultimately winds up doing is raising questions about Spotlight, not so much questions about Larry McCollogh.
Okay, well, that is our story for today. And we hope that you enjoyed this. And we will, we had a little problem with Facebook Live. We'll see if we can get that going again, but you'll see us on YouTube for sure. Hope you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Have an ethical day.